Try to get to the scale.
With me? Sure, but perhaps better here. Lost.
No, you can sit here. Actually,
All right. Good morning, everyone. We're so glad we have such a good crowd today. Hope you all are enjoying your time in New York. Welcome to the high-level panel on accelerating the implementation of the new urban agenda and the sustainable development goals. For this event, we will be discussing lessons learned from Habitat 3, projects and programs undertaken in cities and countries around the world to implement the new urban agenda, challenges facing the localization of the Sustainable Development Goals, and innovative ideas and collaborative solutions that we can share and replicate across the world. We are honored to be joined today by ministers, mayors, and members of civil society organizations from around the world. Minister Dario Herrera, the Minister of Urban Development and Housing in Ecuador, is our chair of this panel. And we also welcome the Honorable Mayor Datuk Seri Mahadi, the Mayor of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, the Honorable Claudia Lopez Hernandez, who just got back from the airport. Thank you for joining us. She is the Mayor of Bogota, Colombia, the Honorable Roy Malik Lowy, the Mayor of Banjul, Gambia, the Honorable Santiago Guarderas Izquierdo, the Mayor of Quito, Ecuador, and then Sofia Brito, a member of the organization Diálogo Diverso, or Diverse Dialogue, in Quito, Ecuador. And finally, Michelle Zuluaga, from the Healthy Cities for Adolescents Project Despacio and Vivo Mi Calle in Cali, Colombia. For this panel, we encourage participation and debate not only from our panelists, but also from the audience. This event seeks to create meaningful and lasting solutions. The problems facing Kuala Lumpur, for example, could be very similar to those in Bogota. So we are here to uphold this mission to leave no one behind and no place behind. Then we must create effective synergies to work together to achieve a 2030 that is more inclusive, safe, sustainable, and resilient for everyone. Without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Dario Herrera.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to be here, honestly, among all of you. I feel very proud to be here. Because of the agenda, I'd like to break protocol and allow Ms. Roy Lowe to speak first, since she has to go somewhere else. Roy?
Thank you very much, and good morning to each and everyone here. Honorable Minister, I am grateful to be invited to attend this panel. However, I think I don't even need to look at my paper, and this is my honest opinion. I had, since I was sitting here, they're talking about sustainability, they are talking about leaving no one behind, they're talking about finances, they're talking about cities, and unfortunately, I think I am a classical example to say that I am a mayor of the city, a capital city, number one, a female mayor for that matter, number two, and to be quite honest, when I sit here, I think I am sitting at at the wrong chair, which means that maybe your cities or the agenda they're talking about is not really coming to my doorsteps. When they talk about finances, I am just hearing about finances since I was elected from 2018 to date. I have been coming to many of the UN Habitat sessions or UCLG and other sessions, but all that I will take back to my people is like, yes, they said they leaving no one behind, but are we part of it? They said there are finances somewhere, but are we seeing it? They said they empowering cities. Are we empowered? They said they empowering women. Are we part of it? For me, it seems like I am living in another world, to be very honest. And my view about local government is like it's a total different thing when I come to USA or to Europe and attend sessions. And Honorable Minister, I really would like, I'm very grateful that the Ecuador government has at least invited me once again to come here, sit down and listen to my colleagues. With all that, we have been doing a lot of things in the Gambia in our own little way, and this shows the interconnectivity of the Sustainable Development Goals. And therefore, I will base my attention mainly on SDG 11, which is to make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. But what am I doing in my city? As local governments, for example, we have local projects. We are doing greening of the city, and I want to take this opportunity also to thank the EU. EU has done something that I am always very proud of and eager to say, because before I became a mayor, EU were giving their monies only to central government. It was never coming down, filtered down to local government. And this is an open secret that everybody knows that in Africa, 90% of our governments are corrupt. And I will repeat this and I put emphasis on this everywhere. If you want to help governments in Africa, if you want to help people in Africa, please touch the life of local governments. Give the funds to the mayors. Give the funds to the official of the local governments. Because in Africa, everybody knows that this politics and government and corruption is the order of the day. If you give anything to our officials, the executive, the governments up, they look at whether this local government is supporting us or is not supporting us. If you are not with them, so it means you will not have the money. This is not a secret. This is an open secret that everybody knows, and I can stand up to anywhere and defend my statement. So people are dying, people are hungry, especially women who are very, very vulnerable. And I have to sit down in sessions every day telling me that they are not leaving anyone behind. Honorable Minister, I'm sorry. We are left behind. We are nowhere to be seen because simply because the problem is either I have to go and stand and say, okay, I will do whatever you want from corruption to whatever, or I will not, my municipality will not have anything. On that note, I want to say thank you to EU because they have taken a bold decision to say that, okay, now we have a woman as a mayor, we are going to take this money and give it to her, whether the government like it or not. And with this money, we are doing what we are supposed to do, that is to help localize the SDGs. So what are we doing? At this moment, we are greening our city, which is very, very important. We are also planting trees at the beach, at least to stop erosion. Everybody knows that Banjul is under the sea level. I have bought tricycles, at least to empower people that are going to the back way, to tell the youth, you don't need to go back to the back way. Stay here and we will empower you. From this money, we are doing that. From this money, we are creating a radio for people to know what is happening. If you want to empower people, they need to know what is happening. And I cannot go as a mayor to every door and say, hello, this is what is happening tomorrow. But if you have a radio, they can hear a lot. So these are all things that we are doing to empower them in our small way. But what are we going to do if this money is finished? And EU is not coming back to us because I have no hope in no other institution apart from EU, because I haven't seen any institution that knocks my door and says, your people are crying, let me help you. So, Honorable Minister, I think it is very, very important for me. If I did not say this in this session, I will not make justice to my people. I want to thank you once again, and I want to again thank the government of Ecuador for at least inviting me here for my voice to be heard. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. As an introduction to this panel, first, Mayor, I'd like to sympathize with you on your words and tell you story of what we have done in our country since 2016. That in a way goes along to what Mayor Lowe has said just now. 6 years ago, the city hosted Habitat 3. And since then, I believe we haven't done our homework. That's my main concern at the moment. The agenda was approved, and this common ideal for sustainable urban development, that way of reimagining how we are supposed to live in cities, how we're supposed to grow, that was developed, was approved. Since then, we had basically two encounters or two other events. I believe it was back in 2019, Habitat 3+3, and then Habitat 3+4 back in 2020. In 2020, after a great participation from many actors of society, the Ecuadorian agenda, the Habitat Sustainable Agenda for Ecuador 2036 was finally published, approved and published in Ecuador. But that was 4 years later. And that brings me some concern. I believe that valuable time was lost, and our government is trying to recover that. very, very hard. Now, we have been in the administration for the last 11 months. And this new administration comes specifically from the private sector. So we're trying to do our best effort in order to adapt, in order to recover this statement, these compromises that we made back in 2020. So despite having this agenda since the end of 2020, it is our opinion that then again the time was lost and that very few things were done. So now, how do you take this information and create or make a different change or a change in order to improve the way that we're doing our job? So to begin, we ratify that we agree on those terms and the compromises made on that agenda. And in doing so, we created a new plan, a habitat and housing plan for Ecuador for our government, 2021 until 2025. So we took this information from the urban agenda, and in guided by this information, we created the plan. This plan details the lines of action to achieve equitable, environmentally sustainable, productive cities. These settlements that we're looking for, and basically, in doing the plan, we're formulating procedures, plans, public policies in order to implement the plan in Ecuador. So this plan emerged as a response to various challenges faced by Ecuador cities and communities. This plan also was constructed by having all the actors in the society in Ecuador all together, bringing their opinions and their contributions to making the plan. Not only the public sector, but the associations, builders, the promoters, the academy, social society, and for a few months, we worked together in order to bring together this plan, this housing plan. The plan at the end, guided by the agenda, achieves 12 out of 17 SDGs. That's what it includes. So, and I believe this is a great success for us, because it's not only a housing plan as it happened to be in our country in the previous years. We identify one key and important issue: the collaboration from the local governments. That was our main challenge, and we believe that without the local governments, the plan will never be executed. Therefore, we had to redefine the role of our ministry. In the previous years, our ministry was considered probably one of the most corrupt ministries in Ecuador, and completely isolated from the local governments. In redefining this role, we went ahead and extended our hand to the local governments, saying, here we are, we're going to become a facilitator to you in order to work together. We stopped from receiving solicitations for meetings in our building, and we went on the road to talk to the mayors in the different provinces in order to explain, in order to contribute with more ideas and fine-tuning this habitat plan with the local governments. Why are we doing this? Basically, we are completely sure that without their participation, the plan will never be implemented in the territory. One thing is to be in a nice building in Quito creating public policy. Another thing is to have or to be working in the territory with the local governments, understanding their challenges, the lack of resources that some of those municipalities have. This key issue also motivated us to show or to create some events that can bring together this collaboration to a more tangible level, meaning not only nice seminars and events, but also events that the municipalities can actually contribute to each other's and to us and with us in order to create some change in their local communities. So back in October 2021, last year, we launched the uh, Habitat Encounter. That's what we call it, the translation from Spanish. It's a 3-day event that we organized in 3 months. We invited 221 local governments in Ecuador. After an exchange of ideas and invitations for many speakers from the international community, at that event, we launched also the Habitat Award for 2021. This Habitat Award, this Habitat Award gathered 51 municipalities which presented 150 projects in the following months. 89 were qualified technically, and 9 ended up as finalists. 3 of them won $225,000 worth of certification from the German government in order to complete these projects. Projects related to recovery of neighborhoods and climate mitigation. This is a way of doing work with the local governments, real work, tangible work. But we don't stop there. We also went ahead and contributed with them to the simplification of processes, digitalization of many processes that they're currently doing, finishing the survey, land survey for the whole Ecuador. We don't have any data on Ecuador, and creating this real bond with tangible resources with the local governments, so that we take on that leadership in order to work together. We don't stop there as well. We have to show them with an example. So our plan now also includes social housing that has been designed under the EDGE methodology, engineering design for greater efficiencies. I am pleased to announce that our country, all the public work in the social housing, free social housing for Ecuadorians, will be EDGE certified, or at least it considers the methodology for the EDGE certification. This means 20% savings in water consumption, 20% savings in energy consumption, and 20% savings in the energy use, on the materials used to build these houses. At the end, this might represent anywhere from 3 to 5% cost per year or savings per year to Ecuadorians that are going to be awarded with these houses. At the end, all these initiatives, all this work translates into a leadership with the local governments, and also showing them with examples that we can do it all together, that we can actually implement in a more accelerated way the new urban agenda and our compromises in Ecuador in order to meet these international compromises in the agenda. I have here probably one of the most important mayors of the country, the mayor of Quito, Mr. Santiago Guarderas. We have met a few times, nos hemos reunido varias veces, and we've talked about this issue. We have talked about how we need together, work in order to meet these SDGs and goals that are in the benefit of for all Ecuadorians. So this is an introduction to this panel. I hope my information has contributed and set the rules or the environment so that we can have a discussion about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Herrera. Now we will be asking Joyati Das to join us here at the panel to give a few brief words about lessons learned since Habitat 3 as well to add to this conversation. And yes, please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. I'm the director of Healthy Cities for Adolescents initiative funded, sponsored by Foundation Bogota, a Swiss philanthropy, and we are collaborating with UN Habitat on youth-led initiatives, localization of SDGs. Honorable young people, so delighted to be here, and of course, honorable delegates. Thank you for this opportunity. Just want to pick up from the conversations and the amazing progress that has been made with leadership from people and Ecuador. Just wanted to say I was there and have been there at various World Urban Forums and also Quito, Habitat 3. So during Habitat 3 in Quito, first time young people, children and youth, were given a formal space to propose solutions for sustainable urban development. Their voices and insights are included in the new urban agenda. During the Habitat conference, young people, children, launched the Children Charter. A formal document was presented to the that time Mayor of Quito, and Youth Declaration was launched globally. That was 2016. Since then, UN Habitat, youth groups, with their different civil society partners and grassroots agencies, have created several platforms of youth engagement to continue follow-up process to the realization of the new urban agenda and localization of SDGs at individual city level, and we'll hear more about these stories. Last year, UN Habitat, in partnership with the Foundation Botman Initiative Healthy Cities for Adolescents, we launched the Youth 2030 initiative to promote practical action of implementing SDGs at individual cities level. And we will hear more about those declarations from young people who are represented. I have worked with children and youth for a few decades now, so there are some lessons learned. And what I have observed and seen for myself, the evidence of just amazing leadership from people. So, a few that I would like to share today. First lesson was from Quito and, of course, World Urban Forums, several World Urban Forums, is when given the space and tools, young people are eager to participate and contribute to a better world. And they're eager to make a difference. We need to acknowledge their value. Second, which I think all of us as family members and citizens, we know that young people are, they are walking in their cities, they're talking in their cities, they are sharing information while playing, while discussions are happening on side streets. Their lived experiences is an important resource to you all. They are the knowledge gatherers of cities they live in. And that is important information for city planning. They have a role to play as evidence builders of the issues that cities are facing and the solutions that collaboratively we can implement. So they need to be listened to, and they need to be recognized, as I said, as an important and valuable resource to city governments. The last one is a given. I don't even need to say this, but I'll say it. Young people are the digital natives of today, with well-honed 21st century skills to propose and promote innovation. They are able to bring constructive, disruptive solutions to the mundane. Young people's unique perspectives need to be considered for us to realize the UN call for decade of, can I just add a word, practical action. This is so important to continue, for us to continue providing them with the space to interact for dialogue, discussions with the decision makers. Now, I'm really pleased to be here to listen to these dialogues and to see how those who are planning, making decisions about the city today are going to consider the city they leave for young people who are going to inherit the planet. I would like to witness a true example of equitable partnerships today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doyati. Now we are going to begin a round for our mayors and also our panelists from social inclusion organizations. Our first question is, well, first we would like all of you guys to quickly introduce yourselves. I know we're already short on time, so if we could keep this quick, we're going to call it a lightning round. Introduce yourself, where you're from, your city that you represent, and then we would also like you to highlight a current project being undertaken in your city for sustainable urban action. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic first to Santiago Guarderas Izquierdo from Quito, Ecuador.
Buenos días. La nueva agenda urbana adoptada en Hábitat 3 en la ciudad de Quito, primer patrimonio cultural de la humanidad, evidenció las problemáticas de las ciudades a nivel mundial y propuso los lineamientos comunes hacia el desarrollo urbano sostenible. Como premisa, el territorio es uno solo y debe ser planificado desde un enfoque local, pero con una visión integral a escala mundial a fin de impulsar una real equidad territorial.
The new urban agenda adopted in Habitat 3 in the city of Quito, the first cultural heritage of humanity, highlighted the problems of cities worldwide and proposed common guidelines towards sustainable urban development. As a premise, the territory is one and must be planned from a local approach, but with a comprehensive vision on a global scale in order to promote real territorial equity.
Nuestro ideal común y el compromiso de todos quienes estamos en este foro representando a nuestras comunidades debe ser establecer políticas para el desarrollo urbano hacia un futuro mejor, más sostenible, seguro, equitativo, resiliente, incluyente y ambientalmente amigable, siempre con miras a la reducción de las brechas de desigualdad social y económica.
Our common ideal, the commitment of all of us in this forum representing our communities, must be to establish policies for urban development towards a better future, more sustainable, safe, equitable, resilient, inclusive, and environmentally friendly, always with a view to reduce the gaps of social and economic inequalities.
Las agresivas dinámicas, tanto de migración desde la ruralidad hacia los núcleos urbanos, cuanto de movilidad humana, han despertado la necesidad urgente de determinar estrategias efectivas y económicamente factibles para atender la demanda de vivienda asequible, accesible y segura para la población, bajo el concepto de comunidad y de esta manera lograr la dignidad humana.
The aggressive dynamics, both of migration from rural areas to urban centers and of human mobility, have awakened the urgent need to determine effective and economically feasible strategies to meet the demand for affordable, accessible, and safe housing for the population under the concept community and thus achieve human dignity.
En los últimos 20 años, América Latina y el Caribe, África y Asia han experimentado un acelerado movimiento demográfico a las ciudades que ha superado ampliamente la capacidad de planificación de los gobiernos locales. En estas regiones existe una mayor segregación social que afecta a los grupos menos favorecidos, provocando que sean relegados a periferias sin oportunidades de superación o al menos de aspiración a una mejor calidad de vida, que es la vocación constante y primordial de la existencia de las ciudades.
In the last 20 years, Latin America and the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia have experienced an accelerated demographic movement to cities, which has far exceeded the planned capacity of local governments. In these regions, where there is a greater social segregation that affects the less favored groups, causing them to be relegated to the peripheries without opportunities to improve or at least to aspire to a better quality of life, which is a constant and fundamental vocation of the existence of cities.
Una ciudad sin corazón, sin alma, se convierte en una máquina fría de cemento y brea que beneficia a pocos a costa de la mayoría de habitantes. Pero la humanidad no se destaca por el estancamiento sistemático de lo ya creado, sino por su continua evolución hacia la búsqueda de un futuro mejor.
A city without a heart, without a soul, becomes a cold machine of cement and pitch, which benefits a few at the expense of the majority of its inhabitants. But humanity does not stand out for the systemic stagnation of what it's already been created, but for its continuous evolution towards the search of a better future.
Es por ello que la nueva agenda urbana establece guías para la planificación bajo el anhelo de alcanzar una calidad de vida que sea equitativa para la población mundial. Los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible deben implementarse a través de políticas públicas nacionales y locales y acciones concretas, con ejes transversales de igualdad, viabilidad financiera para estrategias urbanas, diseño participativo e implementación comunitaria.
This is why the New Urban Agenda establishes guidelines for planning with the desire to achieve a quality of life that is equitable for the world's population. The Sustainable Development Goals must be implemented through national and local public policies and concrete actions, with transversal access of quality, financial viability for urban strategies, participatory design, and community implementation.
La ciudad de Quito, desde Hábitat 3, asumió el gran reto de aterrizar estos objetivos, no solo en la elaboración de la política local, sino también en la planificación, ejecución, monitoreo y evaluación de proyectos en beneficio de los 3 millones de habitantes de la ciudad de Quito. Por primera vez en el Ecuador, en el año 2021, Quito y los otros 220 cantones del país cumplieron con un proceso de planificación para el ordenamiento, uso y gestión del suelo de sus territorios.
The city of Quito from Habitat 3 assumed the challenge of landing these objectives not only in the elaboration of local politics, but also in the planning, execution, monitoring, and evaluation of projects for the benefit of 3 million inhabitants of Quito, the capital city.
La situación del distrito metropolitano es muy particular. En este momento es la urbe más poblada del país y se estructura como un sistema complejo de centralidades con un cuerpo principal de ciudad lineal y 5 ciudades dormitorios conurbadas hacia los valles periféricos, además de su territorio rural que representa el 90% de la superficie total del distrito. Es un polo de atracción de los cantones adyacentes. Los núcleos urbanos del distrito metropolitano, que ocupan tan solo el 10% de la superficie total, concentran el 73% de la población local. Sin embargo, el explosivo crecimiento demográfico de los últimos años, bajo un modelo de expansión suburbana, ha duplicado la superficie de suelo con altas necesidades de servicios de infraestructura que décadas atrás se constituía como un suelo rural de vocación agrícola o conservación ecológica.
The situation of the Metropolitan District is very particular. At this time, it is the most populous city in the country and is structured as a complex system of centralities with a main body of linear cities and 5 intermediary cities towards the peripheral valley. In addition to its rural territory, which represents 90% of the total area of the district and is a pole of the attraction of the adjacent cantons.
Esto ha generado que se mantenga e incluso disminuya en ciertos sectores la densidad poblacional de la ciudad, que actualmente en promedio se estima en 65 habitantes por hectárea, una de las más bajas región, lo cual constituye un reto a superar. A lo expuesto, la falta de planificación urbana y de control, además de la compleja topografía del territorio, han generado la consolidación de asentamientos humanos en sectores de alto riesgo en condiciones de precariedad.
To the above, the lack of urban planning and control, in addition to the complex topography of the territory, they have generated the consolidation of human settlements in high-risk sectors in precarious conditions.
Frente a esta realidad, creo que es importante, hemos tomado varias acciones. El 13 de septiembre del 2021, Quito aprobó el Plan de Uso y Gestión de Uso de Suelo para planificar el ordenamiento territorial y organizar espacial y funcionalmente las actividades, recursos del territorio, asegurando un ambiente equilibrado, buscando una distribución equitativa a los beneficios urbanísticos, cumpliendo la función social y ambiental de la propiedad y garantizando el derecho a la ciudad.
Faced with this reality, we have taken several actions. Thus, on September 13th, 2001, Quito approved the Land Use and Management Plan, a land plan used to plan and spatially, functionally organize the activities and resources of territory, ensuring a balanced environment, seeking an equitable distribution of urban benefits, fulfilling the social and environmental function of the property, and guaranteeing the right to the city. And thank you very much.
Solamente quisiera decir que el camino está trazado, hay mucho por hacer, todos debemos continuar trabajando y aunar esfuerzos para resolver los problemas de nuestras ciudades, que nuestras ciudades enfrentan en tiempos actuales, pero con una visión de futuro en beneficio de nuestra gente y nuestra comunidad. Comprometo a las organizaciones, países de ciudades a apoyarnos mutuamente para concretar las metas de sostenibilidad, seguridad, resiliencia e inclusión en nuestras ciudades.
This new territorial mode seeks to promote social and economic, environmental, and cultural development, articulating the occupation regulations in urban and rural areas in a harmonious and complementary way in order to generate cities where opportunities, services, and spaces are distributed to all citizens. Listo. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much, Mayor. Now we are going to pass the mic over to Claudia, who is the Mayor of Bogota, who it will also speak briefly as this is a rapid round. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks to all of you and to UN Habitat for this invitation to share with these extraordinary colleagues and experiences around the world. I'm the first woman to become mayor of Bogota. We elect popularly mayors since 1988. I'm the daughter of a teacher, the oldest daughter of 6 siblings, a middle-class family, and we started in the mayor's office in January 2020, and just 2 months after the pandemic started. So everything that I hope to represent, the improvement of lives of women, of middle and popular families, of youth people, actually worsen rather than improve because of the pandemic. So that's a great challenge. I will focus on 3 experiences that I think is the way we try to accelerate the implementation of the new urban agenda as a way to deal with the structural challenges of inequality, the legacies of civil war and conflict in Bogota, um, uh, with the new challenges derived from the pandemic. So our focus is to make Bogota greener, is to make Bogota a more caring city, particularly for women. And I will explain why that's crucially important for our city and our country. And third, to make Bogota a more innovative city. So the greening part. The greening part is a duty for humanity, not just for Bogota or for Colombia. We are 8 million people. We have a metropolitan de facto region of 10 million people. But we don't have neither a metropolitan institutions to deal with the challenges of mobility, security, transportation, or urban planning together. So we decided to collaborate. And I think in this time of world of political polarization, collaboration and common ground is crucial. And in a time of crisis is a matter of survival. If we keep dividing us and fighting us in political battles, useless political battles, instead of focusing on the needs of our people, we will die literally. So we decided to do our 4-year term government plan aligned with a 15-year land use and mobility plan for the metropolitan region, aligned with the climate action plan, which is for 2050. So we have 3 different instruments: short term, medium term, and long term. The greening comes in 2 parts. Half of the emissions of Bogota came from transportation. We are 8 million people, but we today depend on cars and buses. That's unsustainable for transportation, but that's also unsustainable for climate change. So we're starting to build, we're 20% building at this moment, the first metro line of Bogota. We're going to contract it out the second in the next year. Our master urban and mobility plan for the next 15 years sets up a goal of 5 metro lines, 2 regional trains, 7 electric cable cars. And we already have, 2 years after the starting of my government, the largest electric bus fleet of any city outside China. Bogota has now 1,800 electric buses in Bogota. So that's that's one greening part, which will allow Bogota to become a 2 hours on average city. That's what it takes to go from one place to another in Bogota. 2 hours, meaning 4 hours of your day in Bogota is used just for moving, absolutely unproductive. So it's going from 2 hours on average city to a 30 minutes on average city, and reducing half of the emissions that we have of green gases in our city. The other part of the greening part is we're planting in 4 years 1 million trees. And our land use development plan, for the first time in history in Bogota, we decided to increase the ecological green and rural areas by 30% instead of continue depredating ecological green and rural areas. We already occupy 35,000 hectares. So we better take a better use of that instead of continuing the depredating land. The caring part is building, which I think is the most important social innovation of Colombia at this moment, which is building the caring system in Bogota. Half of the population of Latin America, that's true for Quito, that's true for any city in Latin America, half of our population lives in informality. They don't have formal jobs. They don't have formal social security. They don't have formal social funds for pension or health. So who is the social care of that informality? The unpaid care work of women. That's the social security of half of our population, meaning the feminization of poverty, the feminization of poverty and of women under poverty is a huge social and economic problem for us. So building a caring women system in Bogota is a fact of relief, redistribute unpaid care work so that women can have free time for themselves, can have time for their own education, and time for employment or income generation. It means in Bogota taking out of poverty 1 million women by investing in social infrastructure and services that provide them with time, rest, education, and job opportunities. That's sort of building a social security system for the half of our population, which is women in Bogota and in Colombia. And the part of innovation, it's crucially important. It has different, perspectives, but I will emphasize in one, which is youth people. Education used to be the mean of social and economic mobility. But unfortunately, education in general, particularly university or tertiary education, has become expensive, unaffordable, inaccessible for most of the youth people in our population. 40% of youth people in Bogota neither study nor work, which is a huge social unrest and economic problem. So we need to change. We cannot afford to have um, uh, colleges for 5 years to get a degree under credit. And then families take all the credit they have for 20 years, put it into a 5-year career, and at the end, their son will not get employment or entrepreneurship. That's frustration. So the main innovation at this moment, social innovation after the caring system for women, is changing completely the education system for youth people, offering for first time not credit but full scholarship, going from 5-year degrees into 1.5 year degrees for programmers, for people in design, in green businesses, in the orange economy, in the innovative economy. We are offering 20,000 full scholarships with jobs for youth people. So I will, I can mention many other sources of innovation, but I think these three things are the most important tools we'll be using in Bogota to accelerate both the achievement of the SDGs and the actual implementation of the new urban agenda. And we hope that by doing that, not only we will have a more just, inclusive, green, innovative city in Bogota, but by 2030, with UN Habitat and United Nations are recognizing the most successful governments in achieving the SDGs, I hope Bogota will be in that podium. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Claudia. Now we are pleased to have on the Honorable Mayor Datuk from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, who will also give a couple of words about what Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur are doing for sustainable urban action.
Thank you, and a very good morning to one and all. Honorable Minister, Excellencies, fellow panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Malaysia and our capital city of Kuala Lumpur, permit me to extend my appreciation to UN Habitat for the kind invitation. Indeed, I'm pleased to be here amongst leaders of local, regional, and national governments as we take part in this critical discourse on the implementation of the new urban agenda, particularly from the aspects of multi-level governance, intermediary cities, and renewed planning models. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to begin with a brief take on our beloved capital city, Kuala Lumpur. Our fair city has come a long way since its start as a tin mining center in the 19th century. Spread across 243 square kilometers, today Kuala Lumpur has evolved into a thriving urban city with a growing population of 1.8 million, as shown on the screen. If you can see it back on it. Based on the 2019 population census, we have 1.8 million people. We function as a connection point for multiple intermediary cities, and we are conscious that our growth can have a positive spillover effect on those cities. Growth alone cannot be a measure of success, of course, but we must strive for sustainability. Indeed, there is a pressing demand to address urban and environmental issues in the planning and management of our cities. As the mayor of Kuala Lumpur City, it is my duty to ensure that we have a clear vision for the future of Kuala Lumpur. Importantly, we are conscious of the need to implement dedicated city planning in order to create a sustainable, livable, resilient, safe, inclusive, and a happy city. And this city planning is with the aspirations of the Sustainable Development Goals and New Urban Agenda, City for All, and leaving no one behind. Ladies and gentlemen, in pursuit of a sustainable and resilient Kuala Lumpur as a city for all, we have aligned our action plans with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals or SDG, as well as the New Urban Agenda or NUA. A selection of our noteworthy plans include New Development Plan for Kuala Lumpur 2040, Kuala Lumpur Low Carbon Society Blueprint 2030, Kuala Lumpur Smart City Master Plan 2030, Kuala Lumpur Pedestrian and Cycling Master Plan 2030, and Kuala Lumpur Climate Action Plan 2050, as shown on the screen, if you can see at the back of yours. Ladies and gentlemen, what is important to note here is that we do not act alone, be it in development or the implementation of these plans. It takes the efforts of multiple actors in order to agree on plans, policies, strategies, and implementation. This is why multi-level governance from the city level to the national level is imperative. These plans are unified in their purpose. That is to shape a comprehensive roadmap for Kuala Lumpur's journey towards a more sustainable and climate resilient future. We are conscious that the development of action plan is only the first step, and that successful implementation is imperative for our goals to materialize. To this end, we have put into motion initiatives to localize SDG 1, SDG 2, SDG 11, SDG 13, and SDG 17 partnership for the goals, to name a few. As you can see from the screen, key among our efforts include increasing the installation of solar photovoltaic system on Kuala Lumpur City Hall owned buildings and facilities. To further encourage sustainable practices within the private sector, real estate developers are mandated to utilize at least 30% of renewable energy in their projects. To amplify our efforts in mitigating carbon emissions from transportation, we have incorporated a new bicycle and pedestrian network lined with shady trees because Kuala Lumpur is a warm and humid city. So we need a lot of trees and shades. And we do it in our Wansa Maju Carbon Neutral Growth Center. Beyond transportation, let me see here. Beyond transportation, our low carbon program under the Wansamaju Carbon Neutral Growth Center also includes new neighborhood parks, more trees, solid waste recycling center, as well as a rainwater harvesting system for new developments. However, in localizing the SDGs, buy-in and participation for the community is vital. To encourage awareness as well as the involvement of the community and stakeholders, we collaborated with public schools, resident association, and the NGOs. Ladies and gentlemen, this I want to share. It's quite special for Kuala Lumpur. There is Kuala Lumpur SDG Center. We believe sharing of good practices is important since visibility is key. For that purpose, we have established the Kuala Lumpur Sustainable Development Goals Center, or in short, KL SDG Center. This center is run on a digital platform which allows the information here to be shared with other cities around the world. To me, to my understanding, KLSDG Center Digital Twin is the first in Asia Pacific region, and this SDG Center Digital Twin acts as an interactive center that collects, provides, and disseminates information on SDG projects and programs that are being implemented within the city of Kuala Lumpur. Since I don't have much time, I need to do a conclusion. So as a conclusion, we are firm in our commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals and new urban agenda, not only for the sustainability of Kuala Lumpur, but also for our region and of course, for our planet. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Datuk, and thank you very much, esteemed mayors, for all you have shared with us today. I think this has actually been perfect timing because you guys have not only spoken about highlights in your cities, but also challenges you guys are facing and what you see looking forward to 2030. So thank you very, very much. Something that's very important about the Agenda 2030 is this idea of creating synergies, that we cannot leave anyone or any place behind. But this is a very, very tall order. And so we need help. So one big, very big part of the new urban agenda is creating partnerships between local government, national government, and civil society, especially youth. So we are very pleased today to have two members from our youth organizations in Cali, Colombia, and then also in Ecuador, Quito, or Quito, Ecuador, with us today, who are going to introduce themselves and then a couple of their organizations and what their organizations are doing locally to promote sustainable global action. All right. Sophia, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much. Good morning with everyone. Good morning with the authorities here and everyone who's here and who's watching streaming. Let's go back to 2016 in Quito, Ecuador. We adopted a new urban agenda in order to for a creative urban development and to promote equal rights and access to the benefits and opportunities to all people. The urban agenda promote the concept that no one is left behind. And after 6 years, we have to see and we have to think about what we're doing. After realizing and after this year, we think and we think that it was not possible. It is not possible, and it won't be possible to achieve these goals if we don't have the real involvement of citizens in decision making, without the financial resources for implementation, and without the diversity approach, diversity in all meanings. In that way, we think from Diálogo Diverso, which is an organization in Quito, Ecuador, that is the first organization that promotes the rights for LGBTQ plus people, migrant and refugee in Cuenca and Quito, in two cities in Ecuador. We believe that it is important to create the real participation of historical vulnerable groups such as youth, LGBTQ people, migrant refugees, indigenous, Afro descendants, and people of different ethnicity, people living with HIV, and people from different status. As my experience as a lesbian woman and also as a youth activist, uh, and also as my work in Diálogo Diverso, we think that we still need to work in order to accomplish the right to occupy, transform, and enjoy inclusive and sustainable cities to get this right to the city. There should not be difference in person. If a person is from another nationality, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, age, ethnicity in Quito, Ecuador, and this is also my experience and experience that all young people still live in Quito, Ecuador. We still live discrimination and violence. We have no participation in the public sphere. We are still marginalized in different areas, and so most of LGBTQ people prefer to hide who they are or who they love. We believe in that society has not made efforts in order to eliminate this discrimination. And as a lesbian woman, I can tell you because I live this by myself. In Diálogo Diverso, we see important to look and to work in order to see intersectionality as an important point to understand the dynamics of society and the different types of vulnerability that a person can live. What happens, for example, if a person not only is an LGBTQ person, but is also a migrant, but is also a refugee, but is also an indigenous person, is also a woman, or is also a people living with HIV? All these vulnerabilities increase and they can have double or triple discrimination. For example, from our work in Diálogo Diverso, we have attended more than 25,000 people from Venezuela, especially from Venezuela and other countries in Quito, Ecuador, and in Cuenca. And we know that they have lived, for example, xenophobia and also homophobia, transphobia, or any kind of discrimination. And of course, with COVID 19, all these vulnerabilities have increased. They couldn't have access to education, to work, housing, health, and also in the transit to Ecuador, they have to hide themselves. Sometimes they do not have the money or information in order to realize their migratory status. And for example, trans women are excluded from health and system work, and they have to be forced to do sex work. People living with HIV do not have their access to the treatment. And also, for example, in a public space, if we just walk hand in your hand with your girlfriend or if your boyfriend, if you are a gay man or a lesbian woman, they'll look to you. They look to you with if like you're doing something wrong. Okay, so we need to change that. We also see that in Quito, in Ecuador, we don't have specific data about the LGBTQ plus community and LGBTQ migrant and refugee community. So we have created some investigations to understand what is happening to youth people in Ecuador. So we created Youth LGBTQ plus agenda, and in order to make visible the needs and the demands of LGBTQ people and invite decision makers in order to promote the rights of LGBTQ migrants, refugees, and Ecuadorians. So I'm going to share just a few examples and a few results. For example, we asked more than 900 people, and 45 of these people didn't know what LGBTQ plus means. So that increased the possibilities of discrimination. Also, 83.3% of young LGBTQ people have not reported the acts of violence because they do not believe in the justice system. So that's a critical point. Also, more than 45 people have been discriminated because of their gender expression, for example, like dressing, like having short hair, or things like that. Also, 31% of young people have been discriminated in the public health system. For example, professionals have not been trained to deal with issues of sexual and gender diversity. Also, and what is more important is that there is no visibility and participation of LGBTQ young people in the political sphere. Also, we support an LGBTQ plus population victimization survey report to with the security secretary and the government in Quito, Ecuador, and it revealed that more than 35% people think that the municipality of Quito and the government does not promote effective awareness in order to promote the LGBTQ rights. So this is a real critical point, and also that more 70% feel insecure in public transportation and public spaces, parks, streets, squares, and other places. From Diálogo Diverso, as I told you, we have attended more than 25,000 people in Quito and Cuenca in Ecuador, giving them social assistance, psychological assistance, legal assistance, medical assistance, in order to create integration to migrant and refugee people to our country. We also provide Venezuelan people the possibility of integrating into the socioeconomic sector through training and developing enterprise. We also have given awareness workshops on diversity issues to workers from the public sector in order to promote equality for all people. We also have promoted involvement of LGBTQ people, youth especially like me, in order to become activists to work for a better world. After saying this, we think that 6 years later, we need to strengthen monitoring in order to include all the historical vulnerable groups in the new urban agenda. Youth spaces should include intersectionality as important part of the development. We need to understand that without financial resource, without the real participation of the diversity in the political sphere, this dream will not this dream will stay only in paper. We need to work in human well-being because that will promote sustainable and inclusive urban economies, ensuring environmental and sustainability and more. Um, we think that if we have a city where all people are involved, where youth are considered in the decision-making process, where all of these goals are clear, and if we follow it's accomplished in real and not only in paper, no one will be left behind. Thank you.
Um, Hello. Um, thank, Thanks for everybody to see us here, and thanks Ian for inviting. Um, I am Michelle Zuluaga. I am in behalf of young people from the Espacio. I'm from the program of Veo Mi Calle. It's a part of the Healthy Cities for Adolescents program of Bogota. Um, I'm the gender advisor of the program, and I am from Cali, Colombia. Um, my 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 English is not that good, but I'm trying my best. Sorry. Problems that I want to show you and to share how we deal and how we work with the young people, uh, to show you as a really good practice of how to improve the the SDGs. Is usually cities like in Latin America have excluded in the like 30% in peripheral areas. And that's is a really bad problem about public spaces and how and where the young people are playing, are having leisure time or sharing their time in that cycle of life that is youth. Yes, where is they're playing, where they are having time, because sometimes the houses that they live in that places or areas is extremely small. Yes, and their public spaces it becomes the part of their houses. Yes, and that problems has a really big impact in women and girls, more than boys, because sometimes adults believe or think that planning as a public spaces for young people may be a soccer field, and not is like a woman is a place to they just like to be. uh, we observe that, and Vivo Mi Calle has a really good methodology and is about basis on they have a lot of things to say and how they show us the problems, and we geocode the problems and in the neighbor, because young people have another skills as the government's local, and we have the neighbors scale. Yeah, and when we work as with young people, they show us um, where the risks are. Yes, and the risks are no they the, no is there it isn't the problems um, about we need a soccer field. They told the traffic is so high. I cannot just cross the line or across to another sector of my neighbor. So it's a symbol borders that they divided, and adult people doesn't know because they don't ask to them, and it's extremely important to raise in their voices. And sometimes in the difficulties of these areas of vulnerable cities or neighbors, um, they don't have the connections, or they don't have the ability to speak to the mayor or to the local government, subsecretaries or undersecretaries of planning to decade together. So what Bio Mikaje do, or what we do as a 50, we are 15 people that work with more than um, 4,000 people, because it's a program of 3 years. We have been working as match them to work together. So they have the local government has a panel to planning, and we bring the girls and the boys at that place, and they show them, well, we need a bike path here, so they did that. Yes, and it's extremely great, because public policies including the visions of the young people, and young people not at the center of the city, but in the peripheral area, where it's a really big really bad conditions, and really have their solutions, just for asking them. Another way to make that they produce in the time, or the sustainable of these projects like Viva Mi Calle, is that the young people build this by themselves, and we have a leadership program that make the engaging the ones who are in Colombia. We have in the last of the school age, we have labor social, labor social, we call that, and they have to give some hours to the society, so that we use it as a way to give their time to the community, and this is working as in their ability of leadership, and become a leadership, or shame on their own neighbor. So when they have the power of adolescents of 16 or 15 years old, they told uh, in their own words, and in local cultural ways, to the youngest, how to do a project, or how to do present to the government, or to the local government, a way or an idea that they have, or how in a place that they dream. uh, it could be more like engaging, because you see like a common I don't know, that they fellow, or inspiring in their own um, how do you say that? In their own in their own, you grow up with a younger an oldest brother or sister, but and you see us in the group of leadership program. They grew up being like the training of the train, and they it is going to be like sustainable because you growing up seeing this happen with their own hands. I don't know if I speak clear, but okay.
But thank you very much, and your English was very good, so we understood you very clearly. Thank you for being brave. Round of applause. Thank you. All right, we are unfortunately done with time for today, but I just want to emphasize that this was a great beginning space for creating dialogue, not only transnational dialogue, as we have several different mayors from different continents here, but also intergenerational, because it's so important to have these conversations not only between government officials, but also including youth in these conversations. We talk about how youth are the future of tomorrow, but if they're not part of the conversations today, then we're not going to see the change that we want to be made. I'm going to give one last final word to Minister Dario Herrera to close the ceremony.
Thank you, Taylor. I'll try to summarize everything that has been said today. I see at least 6 or 7 points here that we can conclude here. Number one, I've heard it from many of you, is collaboration. Collaboration in all levels. Government to local, national government to local governments to citizens, national governments to citizens, and among citizens as well. I think that we have a great opportunity there, and also to have more inclusion from vulnerable groups, from different groups that now belong to our society, and we have to be caring. We have to be uh, understanding that this is the reality, and that we need to include everyone so that really no one is left behind. Number two, I see challenges such as mobility, creating more green spaces, creating jobs, and we all need to tie that together because jobs are created by creating projects that improve mobility, and that creating projects that make more greener spaces in Bogota or anywhere else. Um, Planning. How are we going to do this? I see a great project in Kuala Lumpur from Mayu Mahari. Planning is a key issue. Having control of the land. If you can't measure something, it really doesn't exist. So how can we measure this? So planning is a key important component in this localization and the acceleration of the SDGs, of the implementation of the SDGs. Number four, I think that having the proper feedback of these things that we're measuring. How can we speak the same language? Ecuador now holds the vice presidency of MINURVI, and one of our 6 goals at MINURVI for 2022 is trying to at least get 10 common indicators in all Latin America and the Caribbean. Common indicators, so that we speak the same language, so that we measure the same things. I see also a lack of action. It's implicit. I've heard it, and I don't know if you've heard it as well. But why are we doing this? Why we're here after 6 years and things are not getting done? Youth involvement, especially in Latin America and the Caribbean, we still have this demographic bonus. We have some young people. It's a different story in Europe. It might be different in Asia. But in Latin America, we do have that. How are we going to take advantage of that? Because these people need jobs. And finally, leaving no one behind. I believe that there's no better social policy in the world than creating the opportunity for someone to have a job, to bring food to their families. And in doing so, I think we have an opportunity in Latin America to do it aligned with the SDGs. May that be in the construction sector or the social sector, we have that opportunity. So I think that with all these points, we can finally close this meeting now. A lot of things to do a lot more thoughts to be to have in our minds in order to continue to work together, especially working together. I believe that that's the key issue today. Working together, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayors, in order to achieve these goals, so that we can improve the quality of life of our people all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we are going to move on to our next session, SDG Cities, Women-Led Businesses for Women-Led Cities. So if you guys will stick around, we will have that up next. Thank you so much for joining.